we've read Bible.
Yes.
You just don't get it.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I've read that 100 times. Oh, I can see that. I'm going to move down here so I don't feel so close to the camera.
Did you see, Chrissy, I sent you the little tidbit about the fig tree.
Oh, yes.
I thought that was an interesting take on that.
Yeah. Do you want to share?
Well, if I remember it, you might have to help me out. So there was a guy who did a little tidbit about God or Jesus when he went to the fig tree, because the Bible tells us that the fig was out of season and it wasn't the season for it to bear fruit. And so why did
why was Jesus mad?
Why did he curse it?
So why did he curse it? Well, this guy was saying that because it didn't submit to him. Is that right, Chrissy?
But we were to be ready in and out of season. I think is what he was saying. Like we would be ready in and out of season, and that, like Israel also, like I don't think he said this, but like I read into it, like Israel should have been ready, even though maybe it wasn't the season.
Well, it made me think of the colt. Like even though the colt had never been ridden before, Jesus rode it. So it should not have allowed him to, but it did because it knew that he was the authority over everything. And so that's what I kind of related the fig tree to. It wasn't supposed to be in season, but when Jesus went over to it, expecting it to get fruit from it, then it should have had some fruit.
And Israel too. He should have got fruit from them, and they were.
Yeah, I saw that and I thought that was neat.
Okay, where are we?
13:21.
21. So on the recording yesterday, I just went ahead and put through 23 because that would have actually been part 2 of the Olivet. I always want to say Mount Olivet, the Olivet Discourse. But I knew we would overlap into today. So, all right. Who would like to read through? Do we want to go through? This has, let me see here. Sorry. To the end, I guess. 37. Yeah. Through to the end. 21 through.
I will.
Thanks, Kim.
And then if anyone tells you this is the Messiah or that one is, don't pay any attention. For there will be many false messiahs and false prophets who will do wonderful miracles and that will deceive, if possible, even God's own children. Take care, I have warned you. After the tribulation ends, then the sun will grow dim and the moon will not shine and the stars will fall, the heavens will convulse. Then all mankind will see me, the Messiah, coming in the clouds with great power and glory. And I will send out the angels to gather together my chosen ones from all over the world, from the farthest bounds of earth and heaven. Now here is a lesson from a fig tree. When its buds become tender and its leaves begin to sprout, you know that spring has come. And when you see these things happening that I described, you can be sure that my return is very near, that I am right at the door. Yes, these are the events that will signal the end of the age. Heaven and earth shall disappear, but my words stand sure forever. However, no one, not even the angels in heaven, nor I myself, knows the day or hour when these things will happen. Only the Father knows. And since you don't know when it will happen, stay alert. Be on the watch for my return. My coming can be compared with that of a man who went on a trip to another country. He laid out his employees' work for them to do while he was gone and told the gatekeeper to watch for his return. Keep a sharp lookout, for you do not know when I will come, at evening, at midnight, early dawn, or late daybreak. Don't let me find you sleeping. Watch for my return. This is my message to you and to everyone else.
I like that. Not even I. The angels don't know, and neither do I. It's when God says, of course, revelation, revealing and uncovering, is not cover up and hide.
Okay, I have a question before you start reading.
Okay.
Remember yesterday, whenever we decided that what he was saying about,
We decided what he was saying.
about don't go back to get your coat, was that
Yes.
yesterday? That was a warning for those folks.
Yes.
Okay, now he's talking about,
Well, and the folks back when Titus destroyed the temple. So I think it's a dual, like it was
Okay.
for during that time, because remember it said the Jews didn't heed Jesus and they ran into the city and 1.1 million were killed, but the Christians ran to the mountains.
so when this one's starting at 21, where it says, look, if anyone tells you, here's the Messiah, or there he is that for us now to watch out for?
Well, I think it's for the end time, but I do think it's for now too, because there are people who say they are the Messiah.
At that time, after the anguish of those days.
We just had this conversation in the kids' class on Sunday about somebody had claimed that they saw Jesus in the sky. And so we had to talk about, well, what does the Bible say about Jesus being in the sky? And I love that so young, they're getting
Little
some
deer.
spiritual heritage. Yes.
All right, go ahead.
All right. Any other thoughts before I start reading
Did you get your answer?
Worsby?
Well, and then at 24, at that time, after the anguish of those days, the sun will be darkened. Those days referred to the
The end
tribulation
time. Mhm.
or the end.
The
The end.
the end of the tribulation is.
Mhm.
It is.
But she was saying about the false prophet. I think we
That-
always all have to be.
Yeah,
And that's been through all time.
yes.
The false prophet.
Okay, Worsby. Now he starts in 19, so we're overlapping a little bit of what we did yesterday. In the book of Revelation, the last half of the tribulation is called the wrath of God. During this time, God will judge the world and prepare Israel for the coming of her Messiah. It will be a time of intensive judgment, such as the world has never seen or will ever see again. In it, God will be working out his purposes and setting the stage for the coming of the conqueror. Even in the midst of his wrath. By the way, anywhere you need me to stop because you want to make a note, just yell. Because Caitlin wasn't on yesterday when someone had a question and I couldn't find it, and you're really good at that. Even in the midst of his wrath, God remembers mercy. Habakkuk 3:2. And for the sake of his elect, he shortens the days of the tribulation. The elect refers to Israel and the Gentiles who believe during the tribulation. See Revelation 14. To shorten the days means that he limits them to 3.5 years, to the 3.5 years already determined, and stops on time. Satanic deception will continue to the very end, and false Christs and false prophets will lead people astray. In fact, they will even do miracles. So deceptive will these miracles, so deceptive will be these miracles that even the elect will be tempted to believe their lies. Of themselves, miracles are not a proof of divine calling and approval. Deuteronomy 13:1-5. The final test is the word of God. The tribulation period will climax with the appearing of terrifying signs in the heavens and worldwide chaos on the earth. These signs, which have been predicted by the prophets, will prepare the way for the coming of Jesus Christ to earth. It will be a revelation of his great glory. As he comes to establish his rule on earth. Mark 13:27 describes the regathering of Israel from the nations to which they have been scattered throughout the world. They will see their Messiah and trust him, and the nation will be created in holiness and glory. That there is a glorious future for Israel is stated by Paul in Romans 11. Jesus did not want his disciples to get so involved in the prophecies of the future that they would neglect the responsibilities of the present. So he closed the Olivet discourse with 2 parables. Matthew 25 adds 3 other parables: the bridesmaids, the talents, the sheep, and the goats. Note the first parable, Mark 13:28-31, emphasizes knowing that his coming is near, while the second parable emphasizes not knowing the time of his return. Is this a contradiction? No, because were addressed to two different groups of people. The first to the tribulation saints, and the second to believers of every age.
And who are the tribulation saints?
The ones that 144,000 and the ones that get saved during the tribulation.
Is that who he's referring to as the elect, the tribulation saints?
He's
or-
saying that the elect is Israel and the Gentiles who believe during the tribulation.
That's what I thought.
These are the tribulation saints.
The elect is Israel and the Gentiles. Yeah, and the tribulation saints is anybody who gets saved during tribulation. So it would be Israel and the fig tree has a special association with the nation of Israel. See Mark 11:12-14. But note that Luke 21:29 adds, and all the trees. Most of the trees in Palestine are evergreens and do not change dramatically with the seasons. Not so with the fig tree. It is one of the latest to leaf out in the spring, so its shoots are an indication that summer is indeed near. As Christian believers today, we are not looking for signs of his coming. We are looking for him. But people living during the tribulation will be able to watch these things occur and will know that his coming is near. I think that was interesting. Did you catch that?
Say it again.
As Christian believers today, we are not looking for signs of his coming. We are looking for him.
That's right.
But people living during the tribulation will be able to watch these things occur and will know that his coming is near. This assurance will help them to endure and be good witnesses. Mark 13:13. So we're watching for him
Good.
on the
Um,
clouds
Say that.
to come get us out of here.
And those that aren't taken are,
The ones that will be watching for these signs of his return, where he returns to earth.
they know this.
Well, because he just told them what to watch
Yeah.
for.
There's
Well,
folks that aren't.
The
Christian.
tribulation is actually marked in time, in days, in months, in, so in years. So they can know to the day when he's coming and all the signs that lead up to it. They should say, oh no, we have one more sign.
We're right here. We're in the middle right now, because Revelation tells you what's happening in the beginning, in the middle, and the end.
Are they Christians?
Some of
Some
them,
of them will be. They'll turn.
and hopefully they'll see that and more will turn.
We think of a generation as a body of people living at the same time in history, but to what generation was Jesus referring to in Mark 13:30? Not the generation then living in Judea, because they did not see all these things actually taking place. Perhaps he meant the generation living during the tribulation period, but since the tribulation covers only 7 years, why refer to an entire generation? For that matter, several different generations lived together during every period of history. The Greek word translated generation can also mean race, stock, family. On several occasions, Jesus used it to refer to the Jewish nation, and that is probably how he used it in Mark 13:30. The chosen nation, God's elect, would be preserved to the very end, and God would fulfill his promises to them. His word will never fail. We as believers do not depend on signs. We depend on his unchanging word, the sure word of prophecy. The parable of the fig tree cautions tribulation saints to watch and to know the signs of the times. But the parable of the householder warns all of us today. Mark 13:37. The parable of the householder warns all of us today to be alert, because we do not know when he will return to take us to heaven. 1 Corinthians 15. Like the householder in the story, before our Lord went from us back to heaven, he gave each of us work to do. He expects us to be faithful while he is gone and to be working when he returns. Take heed, watch, and pray is his admonition. To watch means to be alert, to stay at one's best. to stay awake. The English name Gregory comes from this Greek word translated watch. Why must we stay alert? Because nobody knows when Jesus Christ will return. And when he was on earth in his humiliation, Jesus did not know the day or hour of his coming again. Even the angels do not know. The unsaved world scoffs at us because we continue to cling to this blessed hope, but he will return as he promised. Our task is to be faithful and to be busy, not to speculate or debate on the hidden details of prophecy. Watchfulness has nothing to do with going to heaven. It is purely a matter of pleasing him, hearing his loving commendation, and receiving his reward. There is no suggestion here that when he returns, Jesus will take only the faithful to heaven and leave others on earth to suffer tribulation. His family is one, and he is now preparing a home for all of them, even the least worthy. We go to heaven because of his grace, not because of our faithfulness or good works. The Christian who read Mark's gospel eventually had to face intense persecution from Rome. And the Christians who read Mark's gospel eventually had to face intense persecution from Rome. 1 Peter 4:12. And this particular message must have brought comfort and strength to them. After all, God is able to help his people witness during the Great Tribulation, the worst persecution of all. Then surely he could strengthen the saints in the Roman Empire as they face their fiery trial. While Christians today do not experience the terrible sufferings described in this chapter, we will have our share of persecution and tribulation in this world before the Lord returns. But the warnings of this message in Mark 13 may be applied to our own lives. Take heed that you are not deceived. Take heed that you do not become discouraged and quit. Take heed, watch, and pray. And what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch.
Christians here, we're gonna face.
We will experience the terrible sufferings described. We will not experience, but we will have our share of persecution, tribulation in this world.
Well, like some Christians do in India, you know, that what we talked about, I mean, it's happening now.
Not to the extent of like being a burning torch for Nero. Yeah. But they do still, and I think that the Israelites always are being persecuted in one way or another. They're always trying to kill them. They just get.
You ready for Tony?
Yep.
Okay, the tribulation period will see more Messiah pretenders than any other time.
Messiah pretenders.
God's people are not to believe them, even though they perform signs and miracles and wonders. Believers must be vigilant and discerning. Our theology has life and death consequences. God will not abandon his people, though the great tribulation will be a time of great distress. The Lord Jesus will come and set all things right. Amazing signs will appear in heaven. He gives all the references there. They will witness, when they witness these celestial abnormalities, people will know that the Lord is coming soon, and the Son of Man will appear in the clouds with great power and glory. In fulfillment of Daniel's prophecy, Daniel 7:13 through 14, will be an event visible to all. He will send out the angels who will gather all the Jewish believers and those martyred during the tribulation, so that they may enter into the millennial kingdom. So the people who are martyred during the tribulation will go into. That's because
They're already there.
they were not brought up to him yet. Okay. All right. Jesus, doesn't it say that the martyrs are under the throne
Yeah, waiting.
waiting?
When, Lord, when?
I'm thinking they're up in heaven with us, but they're really not. They're under the throne. and
Their
he will-
prayers are under the throne. Because remember at the Holy of Holies, they would put the incense there in the Holy of Holies, and the smoke from the incense would rise up
Okay,
to the Lord's nostrils.
so they go into the millennial. It says here they'll enter the millennial kingdom. 13:27.
I imagine they would, because the church enters with him. Because we are the bride.
And since they're martyred, but they didn't see. I always pictured the martyred would be up in heaven with us then, as soon as they're martyred, out of body in spirit with God, Jesus. But apparently, this is saying they go into the millennial along with.
Don't they want to die, but they can't during the tribulation?
That
Right?
was the non-believers, because they were being stung by the locusts, and they wanted to die, but they would not,
The martyrs are those who are killed.
because it says that we are sealed. The believers are sealed and protected. I would
Okay,
think
so
that the martyr's spirit would be with the Lord, but they're a vengeance of their, because they're not asking for revenge for them. They're asking to be avenged because of the Lord. When is he going to avenge? Which he does at the end.
Okay, so they don't, their spirit is with him, but he didn't give them their new bodies yet.
Right.
That's what goes into the millennial, and he prepares them there, I guess. I guess. Anyway, Jesus told a parable to illustrate these truths. When a fig tree sprouts leaves, you know that summer is near. Similarly, when believers during the tribulation see the things that Jesus predicted, they can be assured that his return is near. Christ's disciples can depend on his prophecies because his authoritative words are more reliable than heaven and earth, which will pass away. This generation, those believers during the Great Tribulation, will not pass away until all these prophecies come true. Only the Father knew the exact day and hour. In his humanity, the Son did not know because of his submission to the will of his Father. That's why I say he didn't know then, but he knows now. Since no one will know the timing of these events, believers must be on the alert in light of Jesus's prophecies. He likened himself to a man who went away on a journey, leaving his servants and authority to watch over things while he was gone. After his resurrection, Jesus could ascend into heaven and give his church authority to ministers in the world on his behalf. Christ's disciples then must not become spiritually lethargic, but remain watchful and prepare for him to return at any time. The rapture of the church will occur before the tribulation period begins. It has no preconditions and therefore could happen at any time. So believers must be constantly in light of Jesus' imminent return. Be alert, church.
So, just throwing this out here. The rapture is gonna happen, and Caitlin said something the other Monday, whatever day that was about that. Before the tribulation. So those, like Caitlin said, who didn't show up for church the next Sunday.
The ain'ts.
Yeah. Do you think they'll be the ones that say, oh, this is really happening and we have to carry on?
And they were right. It was Jesus coming for them.
And I
then
didn't
they
take
give
it
their
serious.
hearts to him because they know if they don't,
Yeah.
they'll still
A
go.
remnant.
They'll still go through the tribulation,
Yeah.
and they might die during the tribulation and be a martyr.
But they might bring other people
Exactly.
to Christ at that time.
Mhm.
Yeah, it won't be just 144,000 Jewish people that bring the word out. I think they will concentrate on the Jewish people.
Mhm.
They'll
They'll be the missionaries.
144,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we who are left behind and know in our church what was taught
Mhm.
and see it, and then we give our lives to the Lord, then we are the ones who carry it out, mostly to the Gentile.
But I think that's where that whole thing of the blood being on my hand or the blood being on your head. Like our job is to do our best, whether they believe us or not, to make them aware. And if they choose not to receive, then the blood is on their head and they're going to have to go through tribulation. And I guarantee you they're going to remember how many times someone tried to talk to them. Yeah, I think there will be a lot of regret.
And the pastors that don't, they end up in church too with half their
Mhm.
congregation gone, or maybe not.
Oops.
Mhm.
They probably have a whole congregation that stays.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, like,
Yeah.
where, because otherwise people wouldn't be there if they didn't discern it. Well, my other thought too is like, when it says Messiah, like, is it really these fake messiahs? Are they calling themselves messiahs? Because I feel like too, like, in a way, Fauci was a messiah for some people. Or Hitler was a messiah for some people, or, and I think anytime where you're putting your confidence in something besides the Lord,
That is your Messiah.
to me, I think that can be your Messiah. Is money your Messiah? Is entertainment your Messiah? Is football your Messiah? Like, what is your Messiah?
That's what I was gonna say. Money or, celebrities or anything like that. They can be a god to you if you worship them.
Your job?
Like all these people going to Taylor Swift concerts, I just keep thinking, oh my goodness. Do you spend $3,000 and give to your church? Or
Yeah.
you spend $3,000 and go to a Taylor Swift concert?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So my what?
So if you go to see
Taylor Swift.
we're gonna know what
Hey,
put your money.
who's Taylor Swift? I don't even know who she is.
She's a pop singer.
She's a singer.
I think she belongs.
But and her specifically, because her concert prices were so outrageous, and people, like, I saw where someone paid $26,000 for a ticket to go to her concert. It's ridiculous. But if you would say, could you give $300 to the church, they would be upset.
Well, so when Taylor Swift says, I'm the Messiah, we'll all go boo.
But does she have to say she's the Messiah, or are people treating
Yeah.
her like
Yeah,
she's the
that's true.
Messiah? That's what I'm saying. Like, when it's saying
Yeah.
Messiah here,
Mhm.
is it someone identifying themselves as a Messiah, or is it someone worshiping something and putting something before the Lord?
Down that rabbit hole, she is part of the
Underground,
underground. Yeah.
the adrenochrome people.
Yes. And that her
Just
fame
Google it.
is backed by them.
Actually, don't Google it because they won't tell you the truth on Google.
Where are we?
Okay, so that's 13.
What's
Any,
Rouse say?
well,
Anything or
he
nothing?
basically stays the same. He does have like a intro and a wrap that maybe I'll just do that because it's shorter. It says in the first portions of the Olivet Discourse, because this is such a phenomenal chapter, which I didn't even realize. Maybe the rest of you did, but at the request of 4 of his disciples, prophesied a number of signs they should watch for in order to know when the destruction of the temple was imminent, which they did see because it happened in 70 AD by Titus when the Romans took it. And all the Jewish records were destroyed. And that's the important thing to know about 70 AD. When Titus took it, he destroyed all the genealogy. So after 70 AD, there's no proof that anybody is actually from a certain Jewish family. So we know the Messiah doesn't come after that. However, the verses that make the Olivet Discourse so difficult to interpret occur near the end, when Jesus spoke about his coming in the clouds and said that this generation will by no means pass away till all things take place. In verse 30, as we have seen, Jesus's reference to his coming is usually understood as his final coming at the end of history. But when it is understood that way, his assertion that all these things, the destruction of the temple and Jerusalem, as well as his return, will happen within a generation, is inaccurate. This problem carries enormous implications with regard to the trustworthiness of both Jesus and Scripture. So then he goes on to talk about a lot of what we had already talked about. And then at the end, he says, in the end, there are basically two ways to handle the Olivet Discourse. One is to interpret Jesus's language about his coming in a figurative sense and interpret the time frame references in a direct literal sense. Or we can understand the time frame references figuratively and treat the teaching about Jesus's coming in a literal sense. In other words, either the language of the return is figurative or the time frame references are figurative. Through history, many Christians have chosen to view the time frame references as figurative. We have held that Jesus used the word generation in a figurative manner. He was not giving a time frame at all. Rather, he probably was saying that a certain type of person, an unbelieving people that we deal with every day in the preaching of the gospel, would still be around until the time this prophecy was fulfilled. This has been a common approach to this text, an effort to save it from criticism. However, I believe that the treatment of the text simply makes Christians seem naive or obscurantists because it tortures the text too much. I personally believe that we must understand the time frame references in the Olivet Discourse in a literal sense, and Jesus is coming in a figurative sense. In short, I believe that Jesus was not talking about his final coming at the end of the age, but about his coming in power and in judgment on his own people, which occurred in AD 70. In my judgment, this is the most natural and consistent way to interpret this text, and it vindicates Jesus as a true prophet and scripture as absolutely reliable. I have no idea what he said.
Yeah, really.
I don't either.
Does anybody else understand what he said?
Wait, read it again.
I personally believe that we must understand the time frame references, because he was saying that
Is he talking about the 7 years?
well, he's saying that there are two ways to handle. One is to interpret Jesus's language about his coming in a figurative.
Is that rapture?
Yes, or
Just
he's saying one of them has to be figurative and one of them has to be literal. His coming in a figurative sense and interpret the time frame references in a direct literal sense, or we can understand the time frame references figuratively and treat the teaching about Jesus's coming literally. Either the language of the return is figurative or the time frame references are figurative. He's saying that he believes we must understand the time frame references literal and Jesus's coming is figurative.
what's the difference between figurative and literal? Let me
Actual,
start there.
Just a picture of.
I think that literal in the sense it did happen in 70 AD and that he is also coming back. I feel like it's a two-sided.
You know, it says the rapture will happen before the tribulation. Well, is the tribulation going to start right after the rapture?
There is a time that is not known. It could be a day, it could be the minute, it could be a month. But it's when it's this
It's a sign.
the signing of the peace treaty, that's when it starts,
That's when the tribulation starts.
right? So we don't know the time frame between the rapture.
So
and
we
the
would say 7 years from the signing of the treaty.
until the end, until he steps foot on Mount Olivet. Yeah. So, and that's when Armageddon happens. So we don't know. And there's
The
no
signing of the peace treaty will start tribulation.
That's right. And that it says soon after the um, the rapture. So I have no idea what that time frame is.
Well, he lands on the Mount of Olives, and that is directly across from the Eastern Gate. So, and it is not far. Like we could walk it in a short period of time. And when he goes in that Eastern Gate, the temple will be right there. So I think that it's probably, I guess, the time of the signing till he actually comes.
Well, that's
That's 7 years.
But I'm talking about from the rapture to the signing.
Oh,
There
yeah.
is a span of time that is not referred to in the Bible. We don't know.
And once the signing starts, then
That's right. We don't know how long that is. we don't have to worry about it, but the people left on
Here.
earth do.
And what is happening in Israel? Oh, Connie.
Well, they're still going through all kinds of, almost like our country, it's divided so much into evil and good. And they're still fighting to get back the government from the courts that are taking over and saying, you're going to do what we say. It's very dictatorial. So I don't know. There's all kinds of little stuff going on where people are getting shot here or there, but it's only one or two,
Which is
there's-
really unusual for over there.
yeah, it's I know. Oh, the army, their defense system is now at a cusp where it's going to fall apart because people are saying, I'm not joining it.
Mm,
The kids,
or
they're saying, no,
they-
we're
They're
not
becoming like America.
because the government's so corrupt.
that's what they think.
Well, they joined the military
Yeah, they
to
have,
defend the country,
Yeah.
but they don't want to defend what the country's turning into.
right.
It's like the United States where you're signing, you're putting your life on the line and they don't care if you die or not.
And it's becoming a dual, like civil war in Israel, same way our country is. So there's nothing that I can report on other than the constant battle of what's going on. I do know that our country is doing all kinds of bull crap. I almost swore. And it's not good. And it's not helpful. It's just supporting Iran and missiles and handing over more money even still to
The enemies.
the enemy. Yes, it's
What happened to the war in Ukraine?
that's what we're still handing money over to help them. And the leader of the
Billions of
Ukraine,
dollars.
say it again.
Billions of dollars.
That's billions.
Yeah.
That's our money.
Yeah.
We're handing that over, coming out of our pocket, our taxes. And
It's money that's not even there.
Actually, China's. Yeah, we're actually spending China's money.
I'm gonna say it's money they're just printing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
but it's not.
Pretend money, Kimmy.
Yes. Well, they'll try to,
Everybody thinks the Federal Reserve is government run. It is not. It is private run money.
Banks.
Yes.
Big banks.
Rockefeller. Is it Rockefeller or Rothschilds? I don't remember.
Both, I think.
They
were
were
both
all
in
in
it.
Carnegie. They were all in together, but
Black.
yeah, their goal is to get countries and people indebted. You will always be in their system if you are.
It's a Blackguard or Vanguard and Black something.
BlackRock.
BlackRock. Yeah, they're into it. They're the big monies.
That's why getting out of debt and trying to stay out of debt is a smart way to go, and to be self-sufficient and have all kinds of people in your arena that you can barter with for skills and things that's needed. Anyway, I don't have a tinfoil hat at all. Ugh. Okay, it is 10:16. We'd be starting a new chapter. So do we want to wait to start chapter 14
Oh my, we're starting chapter.
tomorrow?
Yeah.
Then this concludes the reading of God's word for today. I found this chapter 13 very interesting. I did not know that was the Olivet Discourse.
I didn't either.
I didn't either.
I had never realized the significance of it. And so that was super interesting to me.
Here.
All right. So we'll meet again tomorrow, same time, same place. Oh, I'm gonna stop the recording now.